My 26F partner, 27M, spends all our savings on his hobbies but calls me materialistic for wanting basic furniture. I'm starting to question everything. TLDR, we've been living together for a year with almost no furniture because my partner drains our savings on expensive photography equipment, then calls me shallow for wanting a couch and dining table. I need some perspective here because I'm honestly starting to feel like I'm going crazy. My partner Jake and I have been together for 3 years, living together for 1. 6 months ago, we moved into this really nice apartment that we both love. Good location, decent rent, lots of natural light. When we moved in together, we decided to combine our finances, joint account for rent, bills, and savings. I work full-time in marketing with a steady salary. He's a freelance graphic designer, so his income is less predictable but usually decent. Here's the thing, our apartment still looks like we just moved in yesterday. We sleep on a mattress on the floor. We have 1 fold-out camping chair. No dining table, so we eat sitting on the floor or standing at the kitchen counter. I'm still using cardboard boxes as a nightstand. We have no couch, no dresser, no curtains, no coffee table. Literally nothing that makes this place feel like a home. But Jake has spent our entire savings account on photography equipment. In the past 6 months alone, $800 on a new camera lens, $400 on a tripod, $300 on lighting equipment, and just last week he dropped $600 on some specialized macro lens he needed for his portfolio. Every few weeks, there's a new Amazon package with some expensive piece of gear. Every time I bring up maybe getting some basic furniture, he rolls his eyes and says we don't need all that stuff to be happy. He calls me materialistic and says I care too much about appearances. Meanwhile, his camera equipment is worth more than a year's rent. The worst part? When I suggested we make a budget, like maybe 70% for essentials and savings, 30% for hobbies, he completely shut it down, said it would kill his creativity, and that I was trying to control him. But apparently him spending our entire emergency fund without discussing it first isn't controlling at all. It's getting embarrassing. My mom came to visit last month and made a comment about the place looking half moved in. Jake got super defensive and claimed we were minimalists, which is rich coming from someone with $3,000 worth of camera gear, but no bed frame. My friends have stopped coming over because there's literally nowhere for them to sit. One friend asked if we were having money problems, and I didn't know how to explain that no, we just have completely backwards priorities. Jake keeps saying his equipment is an investment in his mental health and career, but isn't having a place where you can actually relax and invite people over also important for mental health? I'm not asking for some Pinterest perfect apartment. I just want a couch, a dining table, maybe a dresser so our clothes aren't in piles on the floor. The financial thing is becoming a bigger issue too. Sometimes he's short on his half of rent or bills, and I end up covering it, but somehow there's always money for his hobbies. When I try to talk about saving for future goals, like maybe traveling together or eventually buying a house, he accuses me of being obsessed with money and killing the vibe. I tried suggesting we split our finances. We each contribute our share to bills and rent, then keep separate fund money. He said that defeats the purpose of being a team and made me feel guilty for even bringing it up. But here's what's really messing with my head. He's made me feel so guilty about wanting normal things that I'm starting to question if I am being materialistic. Maybe I don't need a couch? Maybe sleeping on a mattress on the floor for a year is totally normal? Except it's not, right? His camera lenses cost more than the dining table I've been looking at. His tripod costs more than the bed frame I want. But somehow MY wants our shallow and materialistic while his are essential investments. I love Jake, but I'm starting to worry about our future. If he can't compromise on basic furniture now, what happens when we want to buy a house? Have kids? Deal with a real emergency? I feel like I'm the only one thinking long-term while he's living like a college student with expensive hobbies. Am I being unreasonable for wanting some basic furniture before he buys his next lens? How do you deal with a partner who has completely different financial priorities? Is this something we can work through, or are we just fundamentally incompatible? I'm so tired of feeling guilty for wanting to live like an actual adult. Edit. Wow. Thank you all for the responses. Reading these comments is really eye-opening. A few people asked some good questions. Yes, he does make decent money when he's working, but he's been turning down some projects lately because they don't align with his artistic vision. The apartment is in both our names, but I'm the one with steady income, so I basically guaranteed the lease. You're right, that $3,000 plus in camera gear in 6 months is a lot, especially when we agreed that money was for savings. Someone asked if he actually makes money from photography. He's sold maybe 3 photos in the past year for like $50 each. So, no, not really. I think I need to have a serious conversation about this. And if he's not willing to compromise, I might need to reconsider some things. Thank you for helping me realize I'm not crazy for wanting basic furniture. Edit 2. For everyone asking why I don't just buy furniture myself, I've been putting most of my income toward rent and bills since his contribution has been inconsistent. The money I had saved up for furniture got used to cover his shortfalls on rent. I'm basically broke except for necessities at this point, which is another issue entirely that I'm just now realizing. Story 2. Caught my 22F boyfriend, 23M, lying about a guy's night. Turns out he was with a female coworker. He swears it was innocent, but I can't get past the lie. TLDR, boyfriend said he was having guys' night, but was actually at a bar with his female coworker. He claims nothing happened, but I'm struggling with the fact that he lied to my face. I really need some outside perspective here, because I feel like I'm going crazy, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or if my gut is telling me something important. My boyfriend Matt and I have been together for about 1.5 years. Overall, our relationship has been really solid. We have tons in common, get along great with each other's friends, and I've never really had trust issues with him before this. He's always been pretty honest and straightforward, which is part of why I fell for him in the first place. About 6 months ago, Matt started a new job at a marketing firm. It's been great for his career, and he seems to really like it there. A few months into the job, he started mentioning this coworker named Anna pretty regularly. At first it was just casual stuff like Anna and I grabbed lunch today, or Anna showed me this cool project she's working on. I didn't think much of it. I have male coworkers I'm friendly with too, and Matt has female friends, so it never bothered me. But over the past couple months, Anna's name has been coming up more and more. Anna recommended this restaurant. Anna and I stayed late to finish this presentation. You'd actually really like Anna. She's into hiking too. I started noticing that he'd mention her, and then kind of catch himself and downplay it like, we just work together obviously, or she's just a friend from the office. The more he downplayed it, the weirder it felt, but I tried to push those thoughts away because I didn't want to be that girlfriend who gets jealous over work friendships. Then last Friday happened, and now I feel like my world is turned upside down. Matt told me he was going out for guys' night with some work buddies. Said they were hitting up this sports bar downtown to watch the game and blow off steam after a long week. I thought it was great. He'd been stressed about work lately, and I figure hanging with the guys would be good for him. I made plans with my own friends and didn't think twice about it. Saturday morning, I'm scrolling through Instagram while having coffee, and I see that Anna has posted a story from the night before. It's a picture of her cocktail with the location tagged. The same sports bar Matt said he was going to. I felt this weird knot in my stomach, but tried to tell myself it was just a coincidence. Like, maybe she was there with her own friends at the same time? But then I kept scrolling and saw she'd been tagged in a photo by some mutual work acquaintance. And there, clear as day, is Matt sitting across from Anna in a booth, both of them laughing at something. No other guys visible anywhere in the frame. Just the two of them, looking very much like they were on a date. My hands were literally shaking. I screenshotted it before I could even think about what I was doing. Then I just stared at my phone for like 20 minutes trying to process what I was seeing. When Matt got home that afternoon, I tried to play it cool and ask casually how guys' night went. He launched into this whole story about how fun it was, how they watched the game, how Dave, one of his work friends, was being hilarious, etc. Just a complete fabrication. I felt sick listening to him lie so easily. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I showed him the photo. I've never seen someone's face change so fast. He immediately went into damage control mode. Oh shit, Babe, I can explain, and started this rambling explanation about how it was supposed to be guys' night, but everyone else bailed last minute, and Anna happened to text saying she was at the same bar, so he figured he'd just say hi and ended up staying to chat with her. I asked him why he didn't just tell me that in the first place, or even text me when the plans changed. His response was that he didn't want to deal with drama, and he knew I'd read into it and get upset over nothing. He kept insisting that they literally just talked about work stuff and shared some appetizers, and that nothing romantic or physical happened. But here's the thing, I'm not even necessarily worried about them hooking up, though obviously that's a fear now too. What's really messing with me is the bald-faced lie. Like, if it was truly innocent, why not just say, hey, guys' night got canceled, but Anna's at the same bar, so I'm going to grab a drink with her? Why create this elaborate fake story about hanging with the guys? When I pointed this out, he got defensive and said I was blowing this out of proportion and being insecure. He said if I trusted him, this wouldn't be a big deal, and that I should either believe him when he says nothing happened or just break up with him. That really stung because before this, I did trust him completely. I've never been the jealous type. I've never had issues with his female friends before. Hell, his best friend from college is a woman, and I love her. But this feels completely different because of the deception. Since Friday, I feel like I'm seeing everything through a different lens, and I hate it. I keep thinking about how his texting habits have changed recently. He's always been pretty open with his phone, but lately I've noticed him smiling at texts and then quickly putting his phone face down, or stepping into another room to take calls. When I ask who it was, he'll say, just work stuff, but won't elaborate. I've also realized that while he mentions Anna constantly, whenever I ask direct questions about her, like what she's like as a person, or if I'd ever meet her at a work event, he gets weird and changes the subject. If she's really just a friend, why the secrecy? The worst part is that he's making me feel crazy for being upset. When I asked him how he'd feel if I had lied about spending the evening alone with a male coworker, he said, that's different because I trust you. But I trusted him too until he gave me a reason not to. I talked to a few friends about it, and they're split. My best friend Emma thinks I'm overthinking it, and that guys are just dumb about this stuff sometimes. Like maybe he really didn't think it was a big deal and just wanted to avoid a potential argument. She thinks I should let it go if he's being more transparent going forward. But my other friend Jess thinks the lying is a huge red flag. She said her ex started the same way, little lies about who he was with, claiming he was protecting her feelings, and it escalated from there. She thinks emotional affairs often start exactly like this, and that I should trust my gut. My gut is telling me something is off. Even if nothing physical happened that night, the lying combined with all the secrecy around Anna makes me feel like there's an emotional connection there that he's not being honest about. Maybe it's not a full-blown affair, but it feels like it could be heading in that direction. At the same time, I love Matt, and our relationship has been so good otherwise. I don't want to throw away something great over what might just be a stupid mistake. But I also can't shake the feeling that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've barely talked since the confrontation. He's acting like everything should just go back to normal since he explained what happened, but I feel like I'm walking around with this knot in my stomach all the time. Every time his phone buzzes, I wonder if it's her. When he says he's working late, I wonder if he's really working or if they're grabbing dinner. I hate feeling this way. I guess what I'm struggling with is, should I take him at his word that it was innocent and try to move past it? Or is the lying itself a deal breaker regardless of what did or didn't happen with Anna? And if I do want to try to work through this, how do we rebuild trust? Because right now I feel like I can't believe anything he tells me about work, his plans, or honestly anything involving Anna. He says I need to just get over it, but I don't think trust works that way. Has anyone dealt with something similar? Am I being paranoid, or are my concerns valid? I'm so confused and could really use some outside perspective. Edit. Thank you all for the responses so far. A few people have asked some clarifying questions. Yes, I've met Anna briefly at one work happy hour a few months ago. She seemed nice enough, but we didn't really talk much. Ma was weirdly quiet that whole night, actually, now that I think about it. Someone asked if they text outside of work hours. Yes, definitely. I've seen work group chats before, and they're usually pretty obvious. Multiple people, very work-focused. These seem more like one-on-one conversations, and he's way more secretive about them. As for whether I think he'd physically cheat, honestly, before this week I would have said absolutely not. Matt's always been pretty morally rigid about stuff like that. But emotional cheating? That's feeling more and more possible. A few people suggested looking at phone records or social media stalking, but that feels like a line I don't want to cross. If I'm at the point where I'm checking up on him like that, the relationship is probably already over, right? Edit 2. Well, this is awkward timing. Matt just texted asking if I want to grab dinner tonight to talk things through. Part of me wants to, but part of me feels like he's just going to try to convince me I'm being crazy again. Also, and this might be nothing, but I just remembered something weird. A few weeks ago, we ran into one of his work friends at the grocery store, and when I asked how Anna was doing, just making conversation, the friend gave Matt this really strange look and said something like, "Oh, Anna? Yes, she's good." It was super awkward, and Matt quickly changed the subject. At the time, I thought maybe she was having some personal issues or something, but now I'm wondering if there was more to that reaction. Edit 3. Okay, I think I'm going to meet him for dinner. Not because I necessarily believe his story, but because I want to give him one more chance to be completely honest with me. I'm going to ask him point blank if he has feelings for Anna and if there's been any kind of emotional affair happening. If he's still defensive and refuses to acknowledge why the lying was hurtful, then I think I have my answer about where this relationship is headed. I'll update after we talk. Update next day. So we had dinner last night, and I honestly don't know if I feel better or worse. Matt seemed genuinely remorseful about lying to me, which was a relief. He said he's been thinking about it all week, and he realizes how hurtful it was, and that he should have just been upfront from the beginning. He admitted that he's been getting closer to Anna and that maybe he's been in denial about developing feelings for her. Here's where it gets complicated. He swears he's never acted on those feelings and that nothing inappropriate has happened between them. But he acknowledged that their relationship has probably crossed some boundaries and that he should have been more honest with me about how much he's been talking to her and hanging out with her. He said he wants to work on rebuilding my trust and suggested that he could be more transparent about his interactions with Anna going forward, or even limit contact with her if that's what it takes. He seemed to really mean it. But then I asked him if he would choose me or Anna if he had to pick, and he hesitated. Just for a few seconds, but it was enough. He eventually said he'd choose me, but that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I think we both realized in that moment that this relationship might be over. Not because he cheated exactly, but because his feelings are clearly conflicted, and I don't think either of us can go back to how things were before. We're taking some space to think about things. I'm staying at my friend's place for a few days while we figure out what comes next. I'm sad, but honestly also kind of relieved. Like, at least now I know I wasn't being paranoid or jealous for no reason. My gut was telling me something was off, and it was... Thank you everyone for helping me realize that my feelings were valid and that I wasn't crazy for being upset about the lying. It really helped me trust myself enough to have that honest conversation with him. My 30F husband, 32M, texts his ex good morning every day. He says it's innocent, but I feel hurt and don't know if I'm being unreasonable. TLDR, husband of 2 years texts his ex-girlfriend good morning almost every single day. He says it's just friendship, but it feels too intimate to me. Am I overreacting, or is this crossing a line? I'm really struggling with this situation, and I honestly don't know if I'm being jealous and controlling or if my feelings are valid. I could really use some outside perspective. My husband David and I have been together for 5 years, married for 2. Overall, we have a solid relationship. We communicate well, share similar values, and I really do love him. But there's this one issue that's been eating at me for months, and I don't know how to handle it anymore. Before we got together, David was in a serious long-term relationship with his ex-girlfriend Sarah. They were together for about 6 years, lived together the whole 9 yards. They broke up about a year before David and I started dating, and according to him it was completely mutual. They just realized they wanted different things in life, but remained friends. When we first started dating, David was upfront about the fact that he and Sarah were still close friends. I appreciated his honesty and honestly thought it was mature that they could maintain a friendship. I've stayed friends with some of my exes too, so I didn't see it as a red flag. Sarah seemed nice enough the few times I met her at group events, and she was always polite to me. But over the past year or so, I've started to realize just how close they still are, and it's making me really uncomfortable. It started when I noticed that David's phone was constantly buzzing with text notifications, especially in the mornings. I wasn't trying to snoop, but when you're lying in bed next to someone and their phone is going off every few minutes, you kind of can't help but notice. One morning I glanced over and saw, "Good morning. Hope you have a great day, son," from Sarah. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was going through something and needed extra support, or maybe it was just a one-off thing. But then I started paying more attention, and I realized it's happening almost every single day. Every morning, like clockwork, Sarah texts David good morning, and he always texts back. I finally asked David about it casually, like, "Wow, Sarah sure texts you a lot in the mornings." He said, "Yeah, they check in with each other daily to see how things are going." When I asked why, he said it's just what they've always done, and it's no big deal. They're just being supportive friends. But here's what's really bothering me. David doesn't text me good morning every day. Like, if we're not physically in the same bed when we wake up, I might not hear from him until lunch or later. But Sarah gets a guaranteed good morning text 6 days out of 7. Sometimes good night texts too. I've tried to tell myself it's innocent, but the consistency of it feels so intimate. Like, that's the kind of daily ritual I associate with romantic relationships, not friendships. I have close friends, including some guy friends, and I would never think to text them every single morning. It just feels like a level of emotional intimacy that should be reserved for your spouse. The texts aren't overtly flirty or inappropriate. It's stuff like, "Good morning. Hope your presentation goes well today," or "Morning. Ready for another crazy Monday?" Smiling face with smiling eyes, but they also share memes throughout the day. Sarah vents to him about work drama and dating issues, and he tells her about stuff going on in his life. Sometimes before he tells me. A few months ago, I tried to bring up how uncomfortable this makes me. I was really careful about how I approached it. I didn't want to sound accusatory or controlling. I just said that the daily texting with Sarah made me feel a bit weird and asked if maybe they could scale it back a little. David's reaction was not great. He immediately got defensive and said I was being insecure. He said Sarah is one of his oldest friends, and he's not going to cut someone out of his life just because he got married. He kept insisting that he's completely transparent about their friendship and that I should trust him. When I tried to explain that it wasn't about trust, it was about boundaries and what feels appropriate in a marriage, he said I was making an issue out of nothing. He actually said if I wanted to be with her, I would be with her, but I chose you. Which honestly made me feel worse, not better. The thing is, I do trust David. I don't think he's cheating or planning to leave me for Sarah. But that doesn't mean this situation doesn't hurt my feelings. I feel like I'm competing with this ghost relationship that never fully ended. Like, he has this daily emotional connection with another woman that he prioritizes over the same connection with me. I talked to a few friends about it and got mixed reactions. My friend Jessica thinks I'm overreacting and that it's sweet that David maintains friendships. She said I should be glad he's a loyal person and that I'm being insecure. But my friend Maria was like, "Oh hell no," and said daily texting with an X crosses a major line. She thinks David is emotionally cheating. My sister thinks the truth is somewhere in the middle, that it's probably innocent but also inconsiderate of my feelings. She suggested couples counseling to work through it, but when I brought that up to David, he said this isn't a big enough issue for therapy and that I just need to get over it. That response really bothered me. Like, if something is making your spouse uncomfortable, isn't it worth addressing even if you don't think it's a big deal? The worst part is that I'm starting to feel like I'm going crazy. David has made me feel so guilty about being bothered by this that I question myself constantly. Am I being a jealous, controlling wife? Should I just accept that this is part of who he is? But then I think about how I would feel if my friend's husband was doing this, and I think I'd tell her she has every right to be uncomfortable. I've also started noticing other things that bother me. Like, David knows all these details about Sarah's life, her work stress, her dating life, her family drama, because they talk so frequently. But sometimes I feel like I have to really work to get him to open up to me about his day, or what's on his mind. It's like he's already processed everything with Sarah first. A few weeks ago, Sarah was having some dating drama, and David was texting her throughout our date night, offering advice and emotional support. When I pointed out that it was interrupting our time together, he said I was being selfish and that Sarah really needed him right then. But isn't it weird that another woman's emotional needs are taking priority over quality time with his wife? I love David and I want to make this work, but I feel stuck. Every time I try to address this, I get shut down and made to feel like I'm being unreasonable. But the daily texting continues, and my discomfort continues, and nothing gets resolved. I guess what I need to know is, are my feelings valid here? Is daily texting with an ex inappropriate when you're married? Or am I being jealous and controlling? And if my feelings are valid, how do I get David to understand that this isn't about me not trusting him? It's about boundaries and prioritizing our marriage? I don't want to give David an ultimatum, but I also don't want to spend the rest of my marriage feeling like I'm sharing my husband's emotional intimacy with his ex-girlfriend. There has to be a middle ground, right? Has anyone dealt with something similar? How do you handle it when your partner thinks your concerns are invalid, but you can't just make the hurt feelings go away? Edit. Thank you everyone for the responses. I'm reading through all of them and honestly feeling validated that I'm not completely crazy for being bothered by this. A few people asked some questions. Yes, I brought up that he doesn't text me good morning every day, and his response was that we live together, so it's different. But shouldn't your spouse get the same energy you give to friends? Someone asked if Sarah has a boyfriend. She's been casually dating, but nothing serious. David definitely knows more about her dating life than I'm comfortable with. The daily texting has been going on since before we got married, but I didn't realize the extent of it until we moved in together, and I saw it happening every morning. Edit 2. A lot of people are asking if I've tried talking to Sarah directly. I haven't, and honestly, I don't think I should have to. This feels like something David and I need to work out between us. But it is weird that in all the times I've been around Sarah, she's never mentioned their daily texting ritual. Makes me wonder if she knows it would seem inappropriate to others. Edit 3. Some people are suggesting I start texting a male friend every morning and see how David reacts. Part of me is tempted because I think it would make the issue really clear really fast. But I also don't want to play games. I want to resolve this like adults. I think I'm going to try one more serious conversation with David about boundaries and what I need to feel secure in our marriage. If he's still dismissive, I might look into individual therapy to figure out my next steps. This shouldn't be this hard to resolve if we're both committed to putting our marriage first. Update. Well, I tried to have another conversation with David last night, and it didn't go well. I waited until we were both relaxed, and I approached it really calmly. I said that I'd been thinking more about the situation with Sarah, and that while I don't think anything inappropriate is happening, the daily texting makes me feel like I'm not his priority. Asked if we could work together to find a compromise that would help me feel more secure. David immediately got irritated and said he thought we'd already resolved this. When I said we hadn't actually resolved anything because the texting was still happening daily and I was still uncomfortable, he got angry. He said I was trying to control him and that he refuses to end a friendship over my insecurities. I tried to explain that I wasn't asking him to end the friendship, just to maybe not text her every single day, but he said that was the same thing. Then he said something that really hurt. Sarah and I have been friends for almost 10 years. You've been in my life for 5. She was here first. I honestly don't even know how to respond to that. We're married. Doesn't that count for something? I think I need to seriously consider whether this is the hill I want to die on, because David has made it clear that he's not willing to compromise at all on this. I'm not sure where that leaves us. Final update. I know this is getting long, but I wanted to update everyone on how this resolved, or didn't resolve, depending on how you look at it. After our last fight, I decided to take some space and stay at my sister's for a few days to think things through. While I was there, something interesting happened. My sister's husband Mark asked me about the situation, and when I explained it, he said something that really stuck with me. If David wanted to prioritize your feelings over his ex's feelings, he would. The fact that he won't tells you everything you need to know about where you rank. That hit hard because it was true. David has made it clear that maintaining his exact same relationship with Sarah is more important to him than my comfort and security in our marriage. While I was at my sister's, I decided to text David and ask him a direct question. If Sarah told you that her boyfriend was uncomfortable with your daily texting and asked you to stop, what would you do? He responded, I'd probably respect that and pull back. So he'd respect Sarah's hypothetical boyfriend's feelings, but not his actual wife's feelings. That told me everything I needed to know. When I came home, I told David that I couldn't continue like this. I said that I need to feel like I'm the most important woman in his life, and that the daily emotional intimacy with Sarah makes me feel like I'm not. I gave him a choice. Either we go to couples counseling to work through this and establish better boundaries, or I need to reconsider whether this marriage is working for me. He chose counseling, which honestly surprised me. We have our first appointment next week. I'm cautiously hopeful, but also prepared for the possibility that we might not be able to work this out. I've realized that this isn't really about Sarah. It's about David's willingness to prioritize our marriage and make me feel secure. If he can't or won't do that, then we have bigger problems than daily text messages. Thank you everyone for helping me realize that my feelings were valid and that I deserved better than being dismissed and called insecure. Whatever happens with counseling, at least I know I tried to save my marriage and I didn't just roll over and accept something that made me deeply uncomfortable. I'll try to update after we've had a few sessions and see if anything changes.